Welcome to the Human Nature Channel. I'm your host, Alex Mtamsula, also known as Daddy Baby on Twitter. And what am I doing here? Well, what I'm doing today is picking up where we left off in my last video, moving forwards into the ideas of S.I. Hayakawa. I'd love to give you some background from other sources, giving a broader perspective to the SI filter I'm building for you. For example, did you know that your vocal cords are muscles? Really? I didn't know that. Although it makes sense. I've been doing videos since 2017, and I'd like to think that I'm becoming a better speaker over time, strengthening the vocal apparatus. I found this out in a book that I just happen to have in my library, and I came across it and I went, oh, vowels and consonants? It's written by Peter Ladyfoge in 2000. He was one of the country's top phoneticians when he was still alive. I'm halfway through the book. It's even got a CD in it with a lot of examples of what he's talking about. Since my business is now public speaking, I thought it might be a good idea to know what's in here. Vowels in a word are the core. Consonants are generally the way to start or stop a word. Here's another fun fact that might surprise you. Speech is gestures of the vocal organs. How about that? You gesture with your hand, you gesture with your tongue, and your lips, and your lower jaw. Also, Dr. Ladyfoge points out that speech and language are not exactly the same thing. And I can almost hear you say, really? And I'm like, I'm afraid so, because language is detachable. You wouldn't say an email and language are the same thing, or a text message and language are the same thing. The point being made here is that speech and emails and text messages and all that other stuff are carriers of language, carriers of information, which is why you can study language as an abstract subject. You can even remove the meaning from language and study its structure alone, which is where linguistics comes in. I'll give you an example of what's known as transformational grammar. Do you remember the video I did called The Dazzling Septic Tank, where I had this skit with me and a therapist, and I said, my friend is mean to me all the time, and the therapist jumps on all of the time, and he does the, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. That was the gag. What I was doing was taking that abstraction, that label all the time, and putting it at the top of S.I. Hayakawa's ladder of abstraction, right? And what I had the therapist do was go down that ladder from the label, pointing out particulars that aren't being addressed. Neat, huh? Another interesting book that I came across is The Social Construction of Reality by Peter L. Berger and Thomas Luckman. This is from 1966. Now, the reason I picked this up was I thought, social construction of reality. Well, I'm on social media. Maybe this will help. Well, it turns out that it's sociology, and sociology is not my most favorite type of reading, because what they do is they describe the obvious with very big words, and then there's this glossary of big words, and they just keep using the big words over and over and over. However, there is merit in pointing out the obvious, especially when you point out lots of obvious things and they ask you to take a step back and look at the big picture, and then you go, oh, that's what that looks like, huh? But what I found interesting in this book was they came up with something I would call the communication scale of anonymity, and I just found this absolutely fascinating. You got this scale, right? And on one end of the scale is the face-to-face communication. Yeah, it's the best. You want to know why? Because when you're in front of me and I'm in front of you, we have the best access to what's known as our subjective experience. Because I can see your face. I can see if you're smiling or frowning, if your eyes are open, or if they're like half shut, or you're looking around, whatever. You get the idea. On the anonymity scale, the next place where they go is the phone conversation. This is 1966. But the point they're making is, okay, now I'm talking to you on the phone. I can't see your face now. So that part of your subjective experience is blocked off. So on this scale, we move further and further towards anonymity, and even though they don't say this, I do. On the furthest end of the scale, what you have is a sign for Coca-Cola on the side of the building. It says, drink Coke, right? It's a message, but you don't know who it came from. The people who put it up there are anonymous. So this is another example of language's detachability. So what I'm doing for you here is not necessarily to turn you into a better public speaker, although it wouldn't break my heart if that happened. No, what I'm trying to do is make you a more knowledgeable listener, a savvier consumer of information, because nowadays, in an information economy like we have, that's where the action's at. So anyway, what do I do with my, here we go. It's off to the farm later today, and oh yeah, I did get that new refrigerator. Yeah. Have a good one.